Unresolved Problem segment tonight. We've been reporting on America's public schools, and the situation is grim. Despite record spending, behavior in many schools is abysmal. Over the weekend, a nasty brawl broke out here in New York City at a high school basketball game. 21 people were arrested. And in Tennessee, 18-year-old Sean Powell has been shot dead by the husband of 30-year-old teacher Aaron McLean, who apparently was having an affair with the high school senior. Joining us out of Philadelphia, Dr. Marc Lamont Hill, who teaches education at Temple University. You know, the violence at these high school games, and the one in New York City was an inner-city situation, Lincoln High School against boys and girls. My father actually went to Lincoln High School way back when. And it was so vicious. I mean, there were guys punching women. There were parents punching students. See all the police in here breaking it up. This is after the fact. 21 people had to be arrested at a high school basketball game. What's going on, doctor, specifically? What is driving all of this?
Well, you know, Bill, that particular incident is a bit unique because it's in a public space. It's in a place like the Garden. And so a lot of times that doesn't have anything to do with public education per se. All kinds of people attend high school games, particularly high-stakes high school games. And so I'm not even sure that it's the young people who attend the school.
Well, most of the arrests were teenagers. I'm not saying they attended the schools, but they were teenagers who should have been in some school. That's who was driving the violence.
Oh, absolutely. And violence is something that we need to be very concerned about. It's prevalent everywhere, all aspects of American life. And I think that one of the things that we can think about is the way in which larger American culture allows such violent acts to occur, the way it reinforces and valorizes that type of violence in ways that lead to these types of incidents.
Now, I've always said that the rap music, the violence on cable television, in the films, torture flicks, all of this has now sent a message to younger people that they can pretty much do what they want to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, American culture writ large is culpable in this type of rampant violence that goes on, and we need to think about that. We also need to think about the type of social mechanisms that we can install in society to help reduce violence and help create conditions that are more amenable to the type of change. Oh, absolutely. I mean, one thing we could think about in terms of public education is creating more infrastructures that reduce violence. We're allowing for conflict resolution. I mean, most public high schools in inner cities don't have a social worker, or if they do, they have one for 3,000 children. The national relationship between guidance counselors and students, we say the ratio should be somewhere between 250 students for one guidance counselor. Many schools have 5,000 kids and one or no guidance counselor. So,
all right, so that's interesting. So you believe that in each school there should be people there who actually teach conflict resolution, who deal with these kinds of moral problems, behavioral problems on a day-to-day basis, and that isn't happening.
Absolutely.
I've said that for a long time, that public schools have abdicated all of their moral teachings, what's right, what's wrong, what's acceptable, what's inappropriate. And now you see it in the teacher realm. Almost every single day we have another teacher involved with a student, and in Tennessee, now we have the husband of a teacher shooting an 18-year-old senior to death. Apparently the senior was involved with his wife in an adulterous relationship. And it is, to me, you know, as a former teacher, there are no more boundaries, it seems. You know, this is the teacher's fault. Am I wrong?
Well, there are two issues. With the first point, I would hasten to add that while I advocate a certain type of social work and conflict resolution, I'm not into moral education. I do think there needs to be a clear separation between the sort of broader moral Judeo-Christian enterprise and the state.
You can't. But you can't make that, because you have to tell them why it's wrong to be violent toward another human being. You have to explain it.
Well, I think we can do that without sort of proselytizing, and that's the worry, because oftentimes
you have to bring in religion, but you have to bring in a moral code of right and wrong, and that's what the secular progressives want to wipe out, and that's why you have the violence, sir.
Oh, absolutely not, Bill. We want to give them clear reasons why it's wrong to hurt someone, why there are better ways to resolve problems. But that's different than telling them that they have no moral compass themselves, or bringing your own moral agenda to the table and dismissing.
You have to bring somebody's moral agenda, and a Judeo-Christian says you don't hurt other people. In other cultures, you can hurt other people, i.e. the jihadists. So I think you're wrong on that one, sir.
Well, you're taking that to a wild extreme. My point, Bill, is only that we need to be very conscious of how we engage in conflict resolution without intervening in ways that compromise the relationship between church and state. I'm just saying that we have to tiptoe a line.
I don't think you have to bring in religion, but you have to make a decision of what's right and what's wrong, and explain why it's right and why it's wrong. But what about the teachers with no boundaries? What's that all about?
Well, I think that it's interesting, Bill, because much of the uproar that we see now is when we find female teachers with young men. That seems to be the newest thing that's sexy in the media. Well, I'm not sure that it didn't happen before. We don't really have any type of data collection system to account for those things in the past. I think what we now have is greater levels of access. We have greater levels of amounts of information that make it more clear that this is happening. I mean, teachers have always dated students in college and high school, and it's always problematic. It's always a gross violation of power.
I didn't see much of it when I was teaching. Doctor, always a pleasure. Going to bring you back on the subject. Thank you.